Okay. Very good. Welcome, everybody. I think we all actually family. I don't think there are any friends here, although I know there are lots of friends signing in, but this is mostly close family and extended family. So welcome to the celebration of Stephen's life. The order, if I may suggest, has been given to me, and I'm going to read the eulogy. After that, Dylan's going to say something. John is going to say something as well. And then there are many messages. And then we'll follow with the toast to Steve. So without further ado, I'm going to start reading the eulogy. There we go. Larger than life, full of shit. A man who truly did strive to be happy. We gathered here to celebrate the life of Stephen Andrew Westhuizer, who was cut short when he lost his relentless war with depression. Despite conquering 2 previous battles with the same opponent, this last fight proved too difficult. But Dad was strong. Dr. Steve was tenacious, hard-headed, stubborn, and we were not prepared for this loss. His life, Dr. Stephen Andrew Westhuizer, was born on the 23rd of August, 1960 in the Park Lane Clinic in Johannesburg, just like most of the oldies here today. He grew up in Germiston, Boksburg, the Lake District. We had numerous adventures as a great earthman with his friends, exploring the surrounding mine dumps and initiating many a misadventure. These ranged from burning the neighbor's fence down not once but 3 times, to throwing mud clots at passing cars. I think they call that likey. And jumping off windmills to see if they could fly. Even from such a young age, Steve never did anything half-heartedly. When Steve moved to Germiston High, he discovered rowing. As they say, the boat bites hard, and he spent the next 9 years sitting at stroke. His hard efforts paid off during his days at Maritzburg, when his team won the South African Championships, later going on to represent the country in England. As we all know, this is where the team were notoriously disqualified for being late to the start of their race. Steve liked to blame the coxswain for this fault, but if you know Steve's character, we can assume he may have had some influence here. But Steve didn't just compete in rowing at Pietermaritzburg. He also completed a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and later went on to complete his MSc at Stellenbosch University. Initially, Steve wanted to upgrade this master's to a PhD due to its complexity, but the professor could not understand the maths. Naturally, this led to a full-blown fight, with the research eventually being sent to a professor in America to validate the statistical models Steve had created. They were, of course, all accurate, and it was groundbreaking research. But Stellenbosch denied him regardless. This all worked in his favor, as during that second year, he took it at a more relaxed pace and got into running and solidified a long-lasting friendship with Earhart, Steve's best man at his wedding. As we know, Steve eventually obtained his PhD and rounded off his education with an MBA through UNISA. It goes without saying that Steve truly believed in the power of science and education. Somewhere in between the higher level statistics, rowing, music, and shit stirring, Steve fell in love. Always known for his public speaking skills, Steve and his shoe-polished moustache were asked to MC at his sister's wedding. As fate would have it, Janet's brother Murray and Michelle were friends with the happy couple, Mike and Jeannie, except that Murray couldn't go, and Janet cracked the nod to go as Michelle's +1. After many Nastarovias, Russian, at the wedding, Steve had a few extras as he was the MC. He and Janet set up a date, a squash game, which he lost. Of course, he arrived an hour late, but despite the small hiccup, the two hit it off literally and figuratively, and Steve delayed his departure to the army by nearly a week to spend more time with Jan. When finally at base, Steve enjoyed care packages and love letters, while all his mates were receiving the dreadful Dear Johnny letter. Despite Steve's brawn, his intellect was more valued, and he landed up in Kimberley working with the intelligence division. He also resumed his rowing purely to get passes to head up to Rudderplaat. In just 3 weeks after he left, instead of the anticipated 3 months, he was back on Janet's doorstep. At the good age of 29, he eventually got his first job. He had been presented several options, including a lecturing position at Stellenbosch, but opted for a research post at Westphalia near Dalescliff. Despite living only 4 hours away, Janet and Steve still had to pull out the road atlas to search for this tiny dot on the map. True to his naturally obsessive nature and eager to prove himself, Steve threw himself into his work at Merensky Technical Services. He literally worked around the clock, often only leaving the office late at night. During these early years, he spent many hours prodding mangoes to work out the best picking time, eventually going on to develop a color chart that became widely used around the world. It was also his mission to work out how to get fruit to Europe in a sellable condition. Here, squirrel temperature monitors were used. He spent a month in France in February 1991 collecting all the squirrels and the data. But here more misadventures ensued. He was meant to meet one of the ships in France, but it did not arrive. Instead, he had to head up to Brussels. Not used to the cold temperatures, he packed poorly for the conditions, taking only his army jacket to keep him warm. Because of the number plate of his hired car, his passport, for some reason, wasn't stamped as he went over the border. So despite nearly skidding off the highway, his journey to fetch the squirrel in Brussels went well. On the way back, however, Steve was found without a stamp, wearing his army outfit with a device that looked like a bomb in the boot. Needless to say, Border Patrol was having none of it. But thanks to Steve's sweet talking and a fair bit of investigation, he was left off without being arrested and beelined back to South Africa. Since his adventures in France, mangoes have made their long journeys to the shore of Europe in a healthy condition. It was always Steve's dream to be independent, and he soon left Westphalia to start his own company, Hort Research. In addition to his own work, he spent 21 years consulting for SQM, a fertilizer company. During this period, he traveled the globe to educate farmers, deploy new research, and make many business connections and friends. He also smuggled budwood into Egypt on several occasions, once when the family was with him. The whole group was escorted from the plane into Egypt without a hitch. Clearly, having the right connections helps. Steve was very proud of his small tree system, STS. He pioneered this growing method of high volume, high density, small-sized trees to maximize production, and implemented the same technique from Egypt to Pakistan and Mexico and beyond. He used many of his techniques on his own properties and dabbled in farming more as a hobby than anything else. Throughout the years, he experimented with many varieties of mangoes, lychees, and avos. He also gave talks in our hometown, Zanid, which he adored and is admired by the farmers in the community. He is known locally as Dr. Steve. He was always the happiest in the field, surrounded by nature. He may, however, not have shared his wife and daughter's passion for the bushveld, but he loved the wilderness. Big open spaces with lots of air and trees and the sound of birds. Steve and Janet had 4 children, Jessica Kay, Sally Lynn, Dylan Stephen, and Matthew Dean. While he was often gallivanting around the world, Steve took great pride in his children and their achievements. He was very proud of coaching Jess at primary school, long jump, where he said, jump hard and as high as you can. Jess's gold medal convinced him he was the greatest athletics coach to exist. He was always trying to make Jess famous, thinking her singing voice would get her there. Dad also applied his athletics coach skills with Sally as well. Always an excellent 200-meter sprinter. One day, Sally took up the 400 meters. Dad specifically said, when you start the race, think of it as a 200-meter sprint. And when you get to the 200-meter mark, run like it's your first 200 sprint. Again, Sally's gold medal confirmed Dad's high-level coaching skills. And he was also ecstatic to discover Jess and Sally took up rowing in the Stellenbosch. Finally, someone to talk rowing with. He shared and always warned them to never be late to the start. Steve was also the occasional cricket coach, despite his lack of knowledge or interest in the sport. Dylan tried to hit sixes by closing, eventually intervened, telling Dylan around. Dylan proceeded to score his highest innings that day. Dad also helped Dylan with his science project about tomatoes and was so proud to share his knowledge with his son. Janet and Steve discouraged rugby, worrying that it would influence, but their boys played rugby anyway. And so the head coach once more. Prior to one of Matthew's best games, he sat him down and explained the best way to tackle without getting hurt. Steve beamed with pride as the team went on to brag about Matthew to the general crowd, without knowing Matt's dad was there. Steve also engaged in many intellectual conversations with his youngest son, and for 2 years debated over the nature of gravity, and that will remain forever inconclusive. We all know that Steve was no sports coach. Passion or their passions. They knew he was always rooting for them. He was always in their corner dreams until the very end. In between the research and the kids, Steve enjoyed dabbling in his favorite hobby, playing the guitar. He spent many hours practicing songs by Neil Young, Bob Dylan, blasting Mark Oldfield, and later pop songs through whatever speakers he could find. He had a room purely dedicated to his 8 guitars at home, where he recorded some of his own music, which is available on YouTube, on the squash court, and later on the bicycle. The two over cycling and enjoyed regular spinning classes at the local gym. Later in life, he also discovered a passion for breeding angelfish and discus. From 5 tanks, his operation grew to house a whopping 140 tanks, which has since taken over the entire entertainment area at home. Dr. Stephen Andrew Oosthuizen, character like no other. A man of passion who believed in the power of joyfulness and the pursuits. A man who loved his family, his farms, his fish, and his guitars. He will also be remembered for the character traits that made him who he was. He was brave, kind, funny, obstinate, intelligent, loving like an ox on the back, known for his nap-taking in races. Headstrong, ambitious, driven, a big, friendly giant with a calming voice, super interesting and a marvelously clever person. With Steve, there were no half measures in anything he did, including how many cups of coffee were consumed in a day. Not five fruits at a time. He has left a legacy behind and touched the lives of so many. May we remember Steve for his generous spirit, his unwavering support, and his quirky character. May we hear the sound of his laugh on the wind, feel his presence with every Bob Dylan song, think of him every time we indulge in mango. May we carry Steve in our hearts, his lessons, love embedded in our souls, and we strive to be happy, just as he did. And he would say to all of us, be gentle. That's with yourself. All it's shame. Janet, you want me to do yours? Dylan.
Thanks everyone for coming firstly. I wanted to come up with something to say. While making magnificent naan bread that everyone, well not everyone, got to enjoy, I was able to conjure up something short and meaningful. My father was an incredibly ambitious and hardworking man that always wanted the best for us. His accolades and was something to behold and to always look up to, as he has achieved greatness in many people's eyes. To my siblings, we should continue to make him proud and strive for greatness as he has always done. His legacy will live through us, and everyone here today will be a witness to that. Thank you. Sure, I think it's enough.
Sure. Yeah, my brother, and going to hear me. Yeah. Phew. I mean, I think if anything, Stephen deserves a T-shirt that says "Handle with care" or "Accidental terrorist." And what a eulogy! Wow. I think there's a few things I can't say now because it's all covered. But I was tossing and turning. I had three versions I was going to kind of spiel. I'm going to put it that way. I thought, gee, Stephen's going to look at me in the corner of the room and go, John, really? Really? Are we really going to do this now? We've debated often about life after death. I was passionate about my faith. You know, where did it start? Where did it start, Steve? Where did it start? No, you can't prove that. That's the Big Bang, bud. And then he would break it down and we'd break down and down to first principles. And I still contend, Murray, that he'd probably make one of the better analysts that you have because he actually understands first principles as opposed to someone or those guys you will hire who don't really understand what money is. But that's another story for another time. So for me, Steve was a mix of a slightly chubbier Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible, a bit of a Last Crusade, and the Chronicles of the Last Crusade, because I think he really thought he was there. There was a chance that there was a gap that the door was going to come down in the pyramid, he would be diving for it. And he'd be confident he was going to make it, obviously. And then a bit of a James Bond as well. Realize I've got 14 years, bit of a difference with my older brother. So to me, he definitely kept me in that kind of arm's length manner. We had some deep discussions when it came to the family. I was always relenting to his plans. I'd say, yes, Steve, we will do X, Y, Z. We'll split this in three. Yes, Steve, we'll do that, just as you say. But when it came down to the crunch, I knew he was the pillar and he would take the lead. And in the last few days, he directed the family and said, listen, it's time for you to step in for one. But, I mean, the eulogy says it for itself. We've all got stories, and I'm sure we're going to share stories. I mean, Injasuti comes panicking. She's not sure to be bacon and eggs because I haven't seen that in about 10 years. Rushing off to Injasuti, Mark with his fancy non-4x4, trying to get up the mountain. That was funny, by the way. I think Steve enjoyed that as well. I had a X5, so I got there pretty cool. The horror on Jenny's face when she saw the chalets. No, the horror that the heaters in the toilets might be a little bomb. So they were gas. And we were only going to be there for one night. So we only traveled about 6 hours. We only started at about 10. And we finally got there. Then we telling myself, saw the mountains, we disappeared, we came back, everyone was gone. We would have missed out. That's Steve. And that's you must remember, Steve. So let's not get, there's just three things I'm going to leave with. This is for me, as I was tossing and turning last night, I said, there's no ways I'm giving the three soppy things. And actually, well done. There's brilliant. Excellent. But what stuck to me was, this is Steve. You tell me this isn't Steve. Okay, now if I cry, I doubt I'll cry though. I'm not going to cry. I've been practicing. Okay, here's to the crazy ones. The misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers. The round pegs in the square holes. And they have no respect for the status quo. If you want to know, we get hustle from Dylan. All of you. That's from Steve. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify them, or vilify. But the only thing you can do is ignore them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Steve was not boring. Steve leaves an incredible legacy. Love each other. Take the good. God always takes the low of the low. And he raises us up and he takes us forward. Because the human race wouldn't be where it is now if it wasn't stoic and always going further. So I love you, Steve. Energy cannot be destroyed. It's transferred. He's out there. Cheers, bud. Until another day. And thank you for making me what I am. Okay, guys, that's it. Okay.
Thanks, well done, John. I'm going to read something from Janet. Oh, Steve, I'm so sad for you. I know I will always use the phrase, this too shall pass. I truly believed we would get through your struggle together. I'm heartbroken that we couldn't reach the light. I'm not sure how this will pass, but I will stay strong, put a smile on my face, and take it one step at a time. I will miss that cheeky glint in your eye, your all-devouring gaze, the cuddles, our shared pizza at meet and greet, and of course no pizza beats theirs, and your sweet rosé after spinning, your snoring, hope you will still hear mine, our daily routine, your help, sound advice and love. I will just miss the whole of you. Do you hear me call your name, oh Steve? Do you see that I am lost without you? That nothing is the same. In time, will I be more accepting? Will my broken heart begin to mend? And will I find peace in believing I will be with you once again? As difficult as the past ahead will be with for our beautiful 4 children by my side, my amazing sister, and brother Murray, my extended family and my friends who are family, I will know I will not be walking on my own. Rest easy, and with the peace you so deserve, you know I will be fine in the end. If I'm not fine, it is not the end. So much love forever. Jess. Be gentle with yourself, he would say. When we were faced with a bad day, if only the same logic could apply to the recesses of his own mind. Lost to the pain that none can truly explain. I hope with all my heart that we will see you again someday. Beautiful, Jess. You want to take a breather? I'm going to have a nose, bro. So here are messages from friends and family far away. Waka, I would imagine Waka might be Pakistani. He was indeed a person with full of energy and passion and enthusiasm. I've learned so many things. May he always be remembered in the best way. Hassan, very sad. He would have enjoyed the results his programs and ideas have started in Pakistan. Syed, it is really sad news about global mango industry who are following Dr. Steve's innovative culture of UHD. He's a great man, will be remembered by all who have followed his mango culture with passion. Muhammad, the globe has lost a very practical researcher. However, his STS teachings and demonstrations will continue to multiply. From Daniel, my memories of Steve are filled with warmth and admiration for the remarkable man he was. To me, he was a big, friendly giant with a soothing voice that just made you feel calm. He was incredibly smart and wise. I would always boast about my uncle, the fruit doctor, and I admired his passion and dedication to his work and his family. Stephen was always willing to help our family, and I remember when falling on tough times, Steve dragging out his old BMW from a field and getting it up and running for us. I loved that car and felt a little fancy that we now have our own BMW. I used to dream that one day that car would be mine. From then on. But for me, what stands out the most about my uncle was his unwavering support and love for our family, especially my dad. My dad battled his own demons with depression, and as my dad mentioned, Stephen was his saving grace. Stephen's presence in my dad's life was a beacon of hope that guided him through the darkest times, and for that I'm so very grateful. For me, Stephen will forever be the big, friendly giant with a calming voice, the fruit doctor, who enriched so many lives of the people around him. Rest in peace, Uncle Stephen. You'll be missed but never forgotten. Memories of Stephen from Dirk. Stephen and I were very close. Stephen, multi-talented, evident in his massive achievements. A few outstanding memories come to mind. We debated the origin of energy and the concept of relativity for hours. I was conscripted to the army after my cycling accident. Steve was a lieutenant. We decided to try and get me out of going to the army. We had an interview with the parole board where I was to appear brain dead. I played the part convincingly. But Steve couldn't keep a straight face. One afternoon, Steve phoned asking me to urgently collect tropical fish he imported from. He tells me they only have 24 hours to live before the oxygen in the water is used. I rushed to collect and take them to Zanin. Steve gave me directions, but I got lost. It's now pitch black outside. We eventually find each other. Stephen says, "Follow me." He goes hurtling ahead at a speed and loses me. The sand roads are treacherous, and I'm bumping and the car's rattling, but Stephen told me I must make sure the water stays calm or the fish will die. We get to his house and he tells me they could have survived for 48 hours more. But you were and you are my hero. From Jeannie. Steve, my big brother and my hero. Growing up with Stephen was quite an adventure. 10 grandchildren at the time, and Stephen was the leader inspiring naughtiness. We made mud clods and threw them at passing cars. Stephen and Dirk jumped off the windmill to see if they could fly. These were the early years at 82 Weber Road. Many more mischievous happenings while Mom was teaching ballet. Stephen once shot his friend with a pellet gun by mistake. He ran to the ballet studio to tell my mom that the friend had shot himself. 5 Datchick Street was our zoo. Stephen had fish, hamsters, birds, rabbits, and any pet he could find, dead or alive. Miguel was the dog who consumed all the leftover vegetables from the Rand show, and we had to clean the landmines off the lawn. Guitar, piano, and singing was heard all day. Coffee, pastas, and tiger's milk for John. Granny was our constant source of food and entertainment. John was born in 1974, and so we all wanted to parent and play with him. King John was his nickname. When Stephen left Maritzburg at university, he left a hole in our lives. Michael and I visited him in Stellenbosch often. He often consumed boxes of fruit in one sitting. He was our first visitor in our house when we moved to the UK. So many incredible memories of Steve. We were all privileged to be part of his life. He always had multiple projects on the go. So intelligent and interesting. A great speaker and so accomplished. The long-lasting one for me is the smile from his heart. Love you always. From Emma. I need to take some water. Oh, I got another running out quickly. I think I popped my ears. From Emma. I was inspired by Jade's message to and about Steve. I'll always remember my Uncle Steve as being a really kind, super interesting, and marvelously clever person. A gentle giant. I love all my stories my mom has told me about him from their childhood. How Steve had all kinds of animals and arachnids and insects at home. I have my own memories of Steve from the many times together with the family in Zanin and Plet, where us kids were always putting on a play or a show and the parents would watch patiently and applaud politely at the end. Definitely some of the best times. I haven't been able to look at all the pictures and the videos being shared on this wonderful group. The immense sadness I feel is overwhelming. I wish I could be there with you all in person. And I'm truly sorry that I can't be. It's at times like these where being far away is the hardest. But myself, Dylan, and Antonia will be there with you in spirit. And we hope you'll know how much you'll mean to us. How much Steve means to us. My heart goes out to Janet, Mike, the kids, my dear cousins, Wistos, the siblings, and all those who are lucky enough to know Steve. Be sorely missed and never forgotten. All my love. From Jade, Jade's in London as well. I'll always remember Steve as the uncle I just wanted to be around. He has such a warm and kind presence. You just knew he would make any situation fun and memorable. I'll never forget his voice, such a comforting and familiar sound that feels like home to me. representing such fond memories of my South African childhood. Steve has left behind a legacy so great in his gorgeous and talented children. I wish I could give you all the biggest hug and hope to see you soon as your dad's light will ever shine on through you. All our love, Jade, Chris, and Matthew. From Natalie Abbott. Where is Natalie Abbott? KZN. Okay. My first memory of Steve was attending his and Janet's wedding. I need an assistant here. My first memory of Steve was attending his and Janet's wedding at the Johannesburg Country Club when I must have been about 14 or 15. During the years of spending time with my dad, Michael Borland, Steve was spoken of fondly and often. Dad was a proud uncle. It wasn't until the year 2017, perhaps 2018, when Steve reached out to pay me a visit on the farm in Port Edward, where we shared the interest of macadamia nut cultivation. Steve invited me to attend a 2-day macadamia course he was holding at the Wild Coast Sun. Although he and I didn't get a chance to build a long-term bond as cousins, he valued our connection and took time to show love and compassion towards Dad, especially near to Dad's passing in January 2021. We kept meaning to meet up with Steve, but he was a busy man. I got to see him that he was both highly ambitious and a dedicated agricultural scientist, as well as a faithful husband and a doting father. I believe Steve lived life to the fullest. My thoughts and prayers go out to the family who were closest to Steve. May you find peace during this incredibly difficult time. From Tracy. The first time I met Steve was in the driveway at Dapchick Street. He was in his army uniform. I was rather in awe of him, my boyfriend's big brother and all. So many facets to Steve's personality, the businessman, the artist, the carer, the helper. Mine and Dad's biggest supporter during the toughest times. I'm so sorry, Steve. May you rest in peace. Love to all of you.
Try and say
Good.
something.
Of course you can do it, Jill.
I'll just hold it. I just wanted to say a few words to Janet and Dylan, Matthew, Sally, and Jessica. I think everything you've seen today and in the whole week that's passed, you've seen how much everyone loved Steve, and it's a testament everything you've done today and the eulogy and what John has said and everyone else and the messages and what you put together. It shows everyone how much everyone loved Steve and how he impacted lives all around the world. And there's just been this incredible outpouring of love and support. And we want you to know it's not that outpouring of love and support is not only for your dad and for Stephen, it's for all of you. And it's not going away. And it's going to be a very tough journey, but all of us are here for you, as long as you need and as much as you want. And that's all. Thanks.
And those are all the messages, heartfelt messages. We should raise a glass and toast Steve. How do you want to do that, Sal? Okay. I think Jill, you might have the microphone. Oh, it's on me. Oh.
I'm gonna try to make this okay for everybody on screen. There we go. And then let's figure this out. Hope it's not too loud. Can we put the sound on here?
Anyway, what I'm going to share with you is a passage of wisdom, which to share with you is a passage of wisdom, which made an impression on me many years ago, and I thought I'd share it with some of you today. It's called the Desiderata. I don't know if anybody of you know it. Some of you might know it very well, some of you not, but it's always a great idea to refresh your memory if you do know it. Let's see if I can find it. I actually printed this in small and large. The reason I printed it in large because I might have forgotten my glasses, so I had my glasses on. Anyway, Desiderata. Go placidly among the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there are better and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is perennial as the grass. So once you love, you will never not love. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond the wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you perceive Him to be. Whatever your plans and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. That was written by Max Ehrmann in 1927, and he did a great job. All right, well,
So, proposing a toast to Steve's life. May he rest in peace. Lots of love.